Let's go. Streaming data free on the MTN network in South Africa.
This is Omnisport.
T's and C's apply.
So what you want to do is listen a little bit later to Mbulelo Thinta and the guys, Itiski TV. There's some interesting, you know, the industry we work in can be so interesting. Is that now there's some industry beef between Mbulelo and another content creator, which I heard about yesterday, which is
what?
Yeah, Kev, it's all happening on the streets here. You know, you in Stanford there, you and your one donkey, you miss out. you miss out on the big time news that's all going on here. So Mbulelo's been called out by some other guys. If you didn't hear about it, listen to Itiski TV a little bit today. We'll see what's on the show. But otherwise, hey, it's all happening, and we love it. We love it. This is the game we chose. You know, nothing's perfect. You work in this world.
Yeah, maybe we should change their names to discontent creators.
That's it.
That's it. Malcontent creators.
That's it. Malcontent. I mean, they're going at each other, two content creators. But listen, it's the game we're part of. Listen to Mbulelo Thinta. Of course, he's with Tsofi Lagazi, and they're always talking about the latest in football. I was walking in the street yesterday. I'll tell you why football is the greatest sport in the world. I was walking in the street yesterday. I'm going to go do, the terrible admin in life as you have to do as an adult. And these guys are yelling at each other. So I'm usually, earphones guy. And as I'm walking around, these one gentleman was a street sweeper and the other guy was selling brooms. But they're going at each other, and I can kind of hear through my earphones. He's saying, "Pirates, this." I take my earphones off. These guys are fully going at each other. Still about the decision last week. So the gentleman who was a street sweeper, he was a Pirates fan, and this other guy was a Chiefs fan, explaining why that goal should have been disallowed. But, I mean, super articulately as well. I mean, brilliant character and very, very funny. But it just made me think, football is just, it's the best. Because here we are in offices and studios discussing it. But here these gentlemen just getting along, trying to survive. And they were so passionate about this fine sport of ours, and I absolutely love that. And now here's Mbulelo and these Awetu guys going at it as well. Football, the golden thread, that keeps us together, the greatest form of community.
Yeah.
Okay, let's start off with what's going on with Bafana Bafana. Hugo Broos has banished Stellenbosch FC midfielder Jayden Adams after being dropped for ill discipline leading up to the AFCON qualifier against Congo. Following last week's MTN 8 final, Stellies and Pirates players reported to the camp on Sunday morning, which was the day after the final that happened. However, Adams did not report, and Bruce was having absolutely none of it, and he labeled the midfielder's behavior unprofessional. He said, look, he's not an 18-year-old. He's not an old player, but he's not an 18-year-old. And if he wants to conduct himself like this, then he's not going to be a part of the setup. And, it was music to my ears. It's like, finally, at long last, Bafana Bafana are taking themselves seriously. Like, this gentleman is going, no. Here, this is not a country club where you get to come and drink and bring girls. And this is professional football. You're a millionaire. Take it seriously. Don't you love that?
I think is absolutely wonderful, and he kept asking. He kept being asked, "What exactly did Jaden Smith do?" And he refused to answer. He said, "I can't tell you. I'm not going to tell you, but you can keep asking me. But if I force me to put it out of the team, don't ask me the details. I won't give you details about it. But it's not hard to read between the lines. He's obviously arrived in a mood, possibly having a big party after the MTN 8 final. Who knows?"
And so, who knows? But you've left room for that speculation. And if he was professional, there would be no speculation. It's like, okay, he's at work, great, let's move on with it. And I think that this is really important for all of us to hear, and for Bafana Bafana to hear. Everybody keeps saying, why does everyone love the Springboks? Well, there's a simple reason. All I ever hear about is their on-field play. Because trust me, that Springbok environment, Kev, you know people on the inside, I know people on the inside, it's not a country club. Russ Erasmus is not Father Christmas, by the way. It is brutal in there. But that never comes out because what they focus on is the product on the field. So nobody cares about what you're doing behind the scenes. It's just take care of that. That's called being professional. The great linebacker in the NFL, Ray Lewis, very, very famous for his electric shuffle. But Ray Lewis used to say something really, really interesting. So in the NFL, you play on Sundays, right? And Ray Lewis was famous for saying, I don't get paid for Sundays. Sundays are for free. What you pay me for is for Monday to Friday, the preparation. And what Jayden Adams needs to understand is That's where you're being professional, not when the lights are on. It's easy for everyone when you're on TV and the plaudits are coming and you're playing the MTN 8 final. Everyone can be on their best behavior then. What Hugo Broos and the Springboks and all professional environments show you is that it's the preparation that matters. And Jayden's going to have to learn a lesson here. I hope he takes the right lesson from this and he doesn't go the other way and sulks.
Well, exactly that. I mean, this was used to be a very common thing in football and even in English football in terms of the drinking. And I think I remember it was Brian Robson or Roy Keane talking about there was two schools like after training, and they would finish training at 12, 2 o'clock. And if you took a left turn, it means you're going to the pub with Paul McGrath, a legendary drunk. Or if you turn right, then you're going to go home and you're going to be well behaved. And there would be times when there'd be parties, and Alex Ferguson would arrive, and I think his name was Lee. I forget the youngster, but the winger. But he arrived, and this guy was having a huge party at his house, and he absolutely bollocks him. And that's what we need. You know, you need that sort of discipline. You have to be like Arsene Wenger when he took over at Arsenal. You know, the guys who are eating pasta and chips and steaks before a game. And he's going, this is not professional behavior. Here's your diet. Here's your training session, and get off the booze.
So I love what you're saying, Nick. I want to finish off on a great story about Alex Ferguson. I mean, I've read all of his books as much as it makes me sick about how successful Man United were. But there was a great story and these great stories. And I've met one of the bouncers. So in the UK, in Manchester, Fergie knew all the bouncers, all the party clubs. So he knew where everyone was. Fergie was legendary for fetching players in the club. And the bouncers, Fergie was paying the bouncers, where he said, if you see, particularly Fergie's kids, so Giggs and Butt and those guys, he said, if you see those guys in here, phone me. And Fergie would be legendary for coming to the club, and some of the players have told the stories of, they'd see the boss and they knew what was going on and they'd try and hide from him. But the bouncers would let Fergie know. So at that level, that's what you've got to be doing, you know. So I think Hugo Broos is starting to show some of those symptoms, and hopefully those symptoms can lead to the field being successful. Let's move over to another place where the boardroom might decide what's on the field. Erik ten Hag is set to remain in charge for Man United following a 6-hour meeting with INEOS Executive Committee in London. Chief Executive Omar Barada, Sporting Director Dan Ashworth, Technical Director Jason Wilcox, Chief Operating Officer Colette Aroche, and CFO Roger Bell were all present. The meeting will be held monthly by INEOS as they want to meet in person regarding football matters. Now, I find this very interesting. Like, why would you have the meeting so far after what has happened in the last few days, and so publicly in London as well? Like, it's so strange. Why can't you have Zoom meetings?
Yeah, and apparently it's a weekly meeting in INEOS offices in London, and it's a regular diary meeting. But it must be more than just regular. It's going to be irregular because that's the sort of season United's having. It's an irregular moment, and they're not quite in crisis at the moment, but they're on the precipice of spiraling down, and they need to make some decisions. And it seems that they've gone there, and as I said, they've said a lot without saying anything at all. You know, so there's no decision been taken. You know, Ten Hag's just carry on his merry way, which I'm quite happy with. I mean, long live Ten Hag, viva Erik,
viva la Erik. Gary Neville interestingly came out and said they are going to be gentle with this situation. They don't want to repeat the mistakes of the past where they've blamed the manager without a structure. So for the first time, probably under the Glazers, is now there's a football structure. It'll be interesting to see which way they go, because everybody thinks bringing in the manager will be the solution. Thomas Tuchel was being discussed. That has been dismissed following the meeting. The reports have come out. And let me tell you something about the football industry. I don't know any other industry, but I know the football industry well, having played there. When things get out, it's because somebody wants them out. There is no news you hear about that's like, oh, that leaked out by mistake. No. It's not how it works. Either the board or the clubs use it or the agents use it. So whenever you're hearing news, believe you me, somebody wants that out and they want to lead the narrative. So for the no Tuchel to come out, that's come out from somebody. And this was on Sky Sports. So it isn't some jamoke, some jabroni, as the Americans say, who just wants to be famous. These are people who rely on those sources and they want to be credible. So they won't just make stuff up, right, Kev?
Yeah, well, not a doubt. I mean, I see that Jason Wilcox, who's the technical director of United, he actually was the one who's reported having spoken to Thomas Tuchel. Wouldn't be the best, worst decision, right, for United. But also then you talk about Ruud van Nistelrooy taking over. Is that just putting a plaster on an open wound to try and stop the bleeding? But I agree with you. There are people with agendas. You know, people want this guy. They don't want this one. I mean, it's the same that's happening in Chelsea in terms of Tuchel being replaced as well.
Yep, there's always an agenda, is what I've been told. There's always an agenda. An agenda for who should be the next England manager, though, is coming through, of course. Again, it's the international break coming up. Former Liverpool and England goalkeeper David James has endorsed Lee Carsley as the correct choice to be the full-time manager moving forward. Here's what James had to say.
He was right going into qualifications and finals, rather than every game being intense. And if things fail, like we experienced in the last Group of Nations League, things become dire. And again, it's not just the manager and the players, it's everyone else like us watching and commenting. Because Lee understands and has been involved in that development stage, I know it becomes a bit cliched now after Gareth Southgate, but there is a part which pays true to that. The players know him, understand it. He understands what Gareth has sort of set up as a legacy. And I think Lee, you know, as an England fan, I hope can deliver in the World Cup if he's given that opportunity, rather than bringing someone else in. And it's going to have to be essentially a clean slate, because he won't have had the experience that Lee's already got. So I'm leaning towards him as a viable successor.
And I think we need to accept that the model of football now is about continuity. This idea that you can just drop in a sort of Mourinho or a Ferguson or a Wenger, those days are over. Continuity is your friend now in football. We've seen who are the most successful clubs. Man City, Liverpool, right? What did they have?
Yeah.
Stability from management to the manager and then to the playing squad. And Lee Carsley is coming through. All of these youngsters, he won the European Under-21 Championship with, right? So he's come through from the 16s, 19s, 21s. He's coached all of these guys. So not only has he developed them, but they will have a level of respect for them, but he also knows how to get the best out of them. How do we know that? He's won with them. So, you know, I think England are onto something, as we saw with Spain winning the Euros, is Gareth Southgate did the same thing. Now you pass it on to Lee Carsley. And then the next guy should be whoever's doing the next thing to sort of concatenate and build sort of those bricks in the wall. I think it's great what David James is saying. And if England want to be successful, it may be painful, but go long term.
Yeah, so Jack Grealish also come out and support and said, and thank Lee Carsley for selecting him. I mean, he obviously had a big heartbreak from being left out of the Euro 2024 squad. But what you're talking about continuity, I go back to Luis de la Fuente for Spain. You know, he won the under-19 Euro title, the under-21 Euro title, and he's just been around, and he's an unknown almost. I mean, I knew who he was, but I didn't know how good he was, and he was extraordinary and very understated, which is what I think Lee Carsley's got about him.
Yeah, couldn't agree more there. 0788 777716. Do you agree with Lee Carsley being the England manager? And your thoughts on Erik ten Hag surviving that 6-hour meeting there in the United Kingdom? Football, sad day today. Spanish World Cup winner Andres Iniesta has retired from playing football at the age of 40. Iniesta, regarded widely as one of the greatest players in history, thanks in part to being in that midfield triumvirate of Xavi Hernandez, Sergio Busquets, of course, for Spain and Barcelona. He earned 131 caps, scoring the winning goal in the 2010 FIFA World Cup final, right here in Mzansi in South Africa, and winning the European Championship in 2008 and 2012, and then 9 La Liga titles, 4 Champions League titles. They called him El Cerebro because he was such a brilliant player and so thoughtful. What a player, what a career. I don't know what more needs to be said about this guy.
Nothing. I mean, he said he could have played until he was 90, apparently. But, I mean, the more I read about him, the more I like him. I just like his attitude. I've always liked the way he plays. I mean, he just has time, space. And whenever Lionel Messi tells you that he's the best player that he's played with, then you know he's the best player in the world.
He certainly is. Well said, Kev. Coming up next, we'll talk about the transfer market, Man City, and Test cricket. Cash and Sport. Mbulelo Thinta joins us next.
Listen live and on demand.
Welcome to Omnisport.